There's a proposal to ban state-controlled clubs from English football.
It's absurd. If growing up someone has said, well, a country is going to own a football club.
These guys just lawyer up and say, we're going to outspend you. The City situation that is, you've done Forest, you've done Everton with points deductions. You have to do something because we all know they've done at least what those teams have done. Everyone knows it.
3 p.m. blackout and whether that could be gone.
I think it should go. It is so outrageous that when you go to America, you can watch every single Premier League game and we can't watch it in our own country. It makes absolutely no sense.
It's a draconian FA rule.
We can't stream a 3 p.m. #United game. It's done to make everyone support the big Premier League team.
Theatre of leaks is Old Trafford. Find out what car the owner come in, take his wheels off, literally let him know, no way, because they'll soon change their mind because they don't need that money.
The irony of us them saying that, we can't get rid of the 3 p.m. blackout rule because people won't go to games. People can't go to games anyway. Too expensive.
Hello and welcome to How Football Works. Spencer Owen, founder and owner of #United, is back with us. And making his debut is the founder, owner, manager, former player, probably club mascot, probably head chef, the man at the heart of Dorking Wanderers. It's such a pleasure to have Marc White with us. Gentlemen, good to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah, great, thanks.
Very good. My first time meeting you, Marc, as well, which I'm very happy. I've been admiring you from afar for many years.
Same, which is weird, isn't it?
Well, you're one of the few people at a club that's done more than I have at my club, and I'm actually been quite jealous, to be fair, watching you, because I did play a little bit in the early days, but you played at the higher level and you've been able to manage the team as well, which I've always seen.
I love it. It's already a big love-in. We'll see how it goes for the rest of the show. As we've got you both here, though, I think we should start with the big story of the week, which is the third round draw of the FA Cup. There's been some brilliant ties that have come out. Bromley are travelling up to Newcastle. Tamworth hosting Tottenham as well. Tamworth non-league, of course. Morecambe going to Chelsea. Accrington Stanley going to Liverpool. But of course, this is the first season where we won't have replays. They have been scrapped. Marc, I'll come to you first on this. What do you make of that decision?
Well, it's brilliant, isn't it? I mean, because I'm so pleased that the draw went in such a way that the kind of like injustice of making that decision was so obvious. Because Bromley, jackpot, at Newcastle. For those that don't know, you get a shade over 50% gate receipts. So in the FA Cup, there's a legacy behind the FA Cup, and it is that utopia of what if we drew a Premier League team at their place? And then that can, for #Dorking Wanderers or Tamworth, if they get a home draw against Spurs, that can literally regenerate their club for 10, 15 years, all sorts of things. And that's what was taken away. And when they made this decision, and it wasn't a decision that had any consultation, and they talked during COVID and post-COVID, they talked about independent regulation, all these things, and they had no consultation with anybody. They just mandated these changes. And the Premier League threw a sweetener in with the National League, this National League trophy. And they positioned it financially that things could be a little bit better off. But the one thing they didn't cover was that golden utopia mirage that we all strive for. So, it's obviously, for Tamworth, I'll be devastated because what a great prize that is potentially taken away. But it's good to see some clubs have got the away draw and they're going to benefit from the receipts.
Yeah, just out of interest, if we take Tamworth as the example here, Spence, how much money could they have earned if they did manage to get a replay against a club like Tottenham?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Obviously, not only is what Marc said completely true, sometimes you've had cases where Premier League clubs have given them 100% and they've just said, look, this is small change for us, but it could be life-changing for your club. So, and that's happened. I think United did it a few times early in the Fergie era. They just said, look, have all the gate receipts from Old Trafford. We're talking a stadium like that, they generate millions on a match day. Like, there's a lot of money there. Obviously, you've got the TV stuff as well that comes with getting that far. But we all know why the decision was made, right? It was to protect the legs of the higher-up teams, and they could play in all these fancy tournaments and all these things. But the FA Cup, the beauty of the FA Cup, particularly for teams like what we run, it's not that we think we're going to win it. We've just been discussing, neither of our teams have ever had that epic run yet. But it's about how far can you go and can you make an amount of money that will sort your club out for a decade, potentially. And it's become harder than ever. I mean, I don't agree with the decision, but slight devil's advocate in there is that if you weren't to get the draw you want, let's say you don't get the Tottenham you want and you get a much lower down team, you could argue that not having the replay as a lower ranked team gives you a higher chance of getting to the next round because you've only got to do them once. You haven't got to do it twice. But the money, it's about the money. They're not trying to win. They're just trying to get that game, and they can't do it anymore.
Is that the biggest frustration for you as well, Mark? Do you go along with what Spencer says there, that this is all about protecting some of the biggest clubs in English football? That's the only reason why this payday isn't being handed out to clubs lower down the pyramid where it would be so big for them. Do you feel like your kind of clubs are being forgotten here?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the Premier League, not many people realise it, to be honest. The Premier League pretty much fund football. They fund the Championship, the EFL, they fund the National League, South and North, and small payouts to tiers below it. So the Premier League can pull rank when they want to get what they want. And they pull rank over the FA for that reason as well. I mean, in this situation, they've manufactured it, so there's more money available across the board. That was their way of manufacturing it. But what they couldn't account for was that Tamworth scenario. For me, it's easily addressed if they go back to allowing them to switch the game.
Yeah, good shout.
And that is, I think, if they're to address it, then that's probably all they need to do. So if that happens, give the lower league club the opportunity to have their day in the sun financially.
Can they actually not do that now?
Can't do it at the moment.
Really?
It used to be a thing. Back in the day, you could switch an FA Cup fixture on the grounds of safety, or sometimes it was a bit murky. My club, previous Dorking, before Dorking Wanderers, played Plymouth Argyle in 1992 in the FA Cup first round, had the option to switch it and chose not to, and built terracing and all sorts of things. So it was a thing you could switch it. You can't anymore. But that probably corrects the situation. But would
you also add in seeding as well? That's been something that's been talked about. Add in seeding so that we're not ending up with all Premier League ties, and actually you're always getting a chance for lower league clubs to draw a bigger team, whether they're at home or if they are away.
Anything that gets the fans a better experience and makes more money for football clubs. No football club makes money, right? From the highest level, no one makes money. So, and that's Premier League. So let alone when you get down to, even League 2, League 1, somebody somewhere is putting money in or having sleepless nights about how to find money next. So anything that can enhance that. Seeding, I've seen lots of arguments for and against it. I think anything that makes money for me, I'd be pro. The disappointing thing was they didn't consult, and this is an FA thing. They don't actually consult. They never consulted with anybody regarding that decision. And that's why independent regulators, that's where you do want them to come in. So someone can say, well, hold on a minute, I'm not quite happy with that one because that's got a big impact. So, but they have got an opportunity to change it for next season. And I hope they do.
So just to get that clear, the FA didn't approach any of the lower league clubs about this decision?
No chance. No chance. No.
Replays are still in up to the first round, right? So before the first round. So essentially in the qualifying rounds, you still have to do replays, which is actually almost worse in a way because you don't get the big money tie. So it only goes up against the National League and you've got to play more games. If you're a lower ranked team, so say us, we're the 7th tier, right? Step 3. For us to get to the first round, we've got to play, I think, 4 games, right? So imagine if they all had replays. That's 8 FA Cup fixtures to get to the money tie, along with all the other fixtures. If you have we're still in the FA Trophy this year, for example, we're still in County Cup and we're still in the League Cup. And as a result, we've played twice a week for the last 7 weeks and we're going to keep doing that for the next 5 weeks. People are dropping like flies. So if we have more runs in there, more replays, if you're going to have the replays, have the ones that actually get you something, not the ones that just inconvenience.
Yeah, because actually, do you find that because of the way that impacts your playing squad, for example, those ties are almost, and those replays are almost losing you money?
Yeah,
because
theoretically.
I mean, how you finish.
Listen, you could benefit from a replay, can't you? If you just squeeze a draw against a better side and then you go and do them in the away one, of course. But going back to your point about the seeding is a good sort of competitive argument. You look at tennis and all these things. They're trying to get the better players, to play potentially in the final, but also a chance for these other sort of fixtures to happen. Because of the way the FA Cup is and the way Mark and I have sort of said, it's not about winning it for the lower ranked teams. It's an unrealistic expectation. It's about getting as far as you can. Then that is where you would argue that seeding wouldn't help them necessarily. But it's very interesting competition. It's not straightforward, everyone trying to win it.
Just out of interest as well, we talked about that big payday potentially for a club like Tamworth. Just on a point of interest, if you were a team that got that fine, you got that money, Mark, what would be the priorities for a club like Dorking Wanderers? What would you spend that money on? What would be the first point of call?
It would just be the ground and the infrastructure and facilities, unless you was in that fortunate position whereby like Bromley, they've invested brilliantly in their stadium in the last 5 years, got promoted to League Two, got a Newcastle away in the FA Cup, and the chairman might think, oh, that's nice. That's going to be best part of £1 million. It'd be best part of £1 million.
Yeah.
And that's great. We can actually put a bit more into our budget, secure safety. Primarily for clubs at our level, it's infrastructure, it's all the things that you struggle day to day with. That's where that sort of money would go. And when you do your P&L at this level of football, you'll always have a hole. And every year you'll leave in the FA Cup income line, you'll only ever plug in the loser's money for the stage you come in, because that's all you can guarantee. And you always look at your business partner or board and say, yeah, but if we have a FA Cup, right? If we do, you know, it is the utopia. What everybody looks at is that is, could we be the club that does it? I think about Farnborough, Arsenal. I think about Havant and Waterlooville at Liverpool, who actually then got a replay as well. I think about all those Crawley, Man United at Old Trafford, right? Sergio Torres. I think about all. I remember them all, and I haven't got the best memory because that is the legacy of the FA Cup. So it'd be nice to see the FA redress the balance with this one.
Spurs had another one a few years ago, didn't they?
Marine.
Marine,
and
COVID. They were, I think, step 5 at the time. Marine.
COVID.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
During COVID, and no spectators in.
And also, I think Maidstone last season, they beat Ipswich. What an amazing day out
George
for them.
Elokobi.
George Elokobi, the manager. And they drew in the next round, I want to say Coventry. And there was a bit of... it was quite funny because I think the reaction that they had, they were so close to getting Manchester City in the draw. I think there was only 4 clubs left and they were so close to getting Man City. And the reaction was a bit muted. And some people said, well, you're disrespecting Coventry. But actually, as owners of these kind of clubs, could you completely understand that they're missing that mega payday, that mega day out?
100%, yeah. And I'll tell you another thing as well. If it's down to these top 5 Premier League clubs and their owners, they wouldn't even play in this competition. No. Right? Can you imagine the conversations they have behind the scenes trying to sort of strong-arm the fact they don't really want to be in it? They have to be in it because their supporters would kick off, the FA would kick off. So they strong-arm this kind of latest no replay thing. But hopefully... a little bit of independent regulation, a little bit of, someone looking at it, and they might address the balance with this. Like I said, it's this utopia bit. It's this one golden nugget you want to remain on the table.
Yeah.
Do you see replays ever coming back, or do you think this is now the end of the line? They've made their decision.
There's a lot of games, right? There's a lot of games for all levels. So I actually think if you're trying to please everyone, Mark's solution would work. Like it's not. It maybe isn't. Could there be a rule that isn't just allowed? Because usually, if you were to reverse the fixture, both clubs would have to agree, right? Maybe there should be a rule that is that club that's a certain rank gets the choice.
It's so interesting to get both of your insight and to have 2 owners and founders of clubs. And you've both got very similar stories, but also totally different. Mark, just for some people who might not know the story of Dorking, would you be able to take us through how you founded the club and how you've grown it since then? Yeah,
I mean, I'll keep it brief. I mean, me and my friends followed Wimbledon. We stopped doing that. We started playing football on a Saturday in Step 17. Park football, Division 5 of the Crawley District Park League, and where you had to provide your own referees. We've had 12 promotions since. Built essentially 2 grounds along the way with our bare hands, literally, no benefactor, just hard work and effort. And that's it really. So we've had this. We've kind of. We've become sort of like this kind of underdog story, really, that people get behind because they know it's kind of a real authentic one. Been fortunate, and then it's been documented along the way. That we've fallen onto that, whereas Spencer's an educated version of that, and we've really fallen on it, and we don't make the best of that at all compared to where we should. So that's our success.
And just to outline for people, your current role at the club, you are owner and manager. Is there anything else alongside as well?
No, I mean, we've got a really big infrastructure now. We're pretty much full time now. I still manage. I was a player manager. I was just collecting £5 subs off of people and putting the nets up, and I've always done it basically. So I still continue, and I do enjoy it. I love it.
We wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Can I ask you, because Spencer, you were also manager of hashtag.
I was manager, but I was manager when we weren't even in an official league. We weren't even in Step 17. We were a made-up YouTube-friendly game, so I was never under any scrutiny. I also had a ridiculous setup whereby we'd made this sort of virtual league for ourselves, where we were playing for points, but the opponents weren't. So it couldn't have been a better setup to win games of football. But I've admired what Marc's done for many years, and I think that, you know, often, especially in countries like America where they don't have the promotion system, they talk about the ability to climb up, and they're always really looking at the Wrexham world and going from National League to whatever. But what Marc's done is actually, I think, so much more impressive, because you're taking a club from, you know, relative obscurity that no one would have paid any interest to for many years, and you've had to be the absolute, you know, fire behind it to getting it to this really incredible level. I think it's like record amount of promotions any club's had, I think. And
12 in 23 years.
And the dream isn't over, right? Like, if you can make it make sense, you can keep going. And it's such an amazing thing that we have in this country. We have to protect it. And it is getting harder, though. The gap is getting bigger between the richer clubs.
When were Dorking first on your radar?
Oh, I think when we started looking, I've always been in and around non-league, so, you know, my dad was always involved in non-league, so I've always paid attention to it. But certainly when we started looking at going into non-league and we were looking at all these different case studies, you know, we were much more fortunate than Dorking, whereas we were able to enter in at step 6, that we cut out a lot of that legwork that they had to do for a multitude of reasons. But so we were looking at case studies there of like FC United of Manchester, AFC Wimbledon when they were reformed. But we were also looking at what's possible. So having something like that journey there documented that we can see and go, oh, right, these guys have gone from that level to that level, it is physically possible. And we knew, you know, we had this fan base that could power us and help us generate revenue to, you know, get these promotions. But it's so important in life in general, whatever you're doing, to have case studies of make you feel like can be done. We had a lot of stuff that we had to make up along the way in terms of the sort of social media side of the club. But in terms of the football side, Dorking example is right there for us to see it can be done. So would we even be where we are without Marc doing it at Dorking? I couldn't say we would have. I might have said, let's not join the pyramid and let's keep doing YouTube stuff because it's going to be too hard. It's a massive
there we go.
thing.
Yeah, huge inspiration. I just want to go back to you having that role as manager as well, Marc, because as we know, non-league is getting more and more competitive. Your achievements as a manager have been absolutely incredible, as we've already said, broken records in terms of promotions. Out of interest, though, if you were to you know, go back up again and potentially be close enough to be able to move up into the Football League, what an unbelievable achievement that would be. What level would it have to get to? What point would it maybe have to get to where you potentially thought, as owner of the club, maybe we'd need to move on? Or would you not want to let go of that manager role?
No, for me, it's just always been down to if the resources behind it essentially outweigh the performance, then I'm not doing the best job I can for the club. Ultimately, I'm the biggest supporter of the club, the biggest fan, the biggest shareholder, everything. So I can never hold it back. I mean, in our first season in the National League, we finished 16th, training Tuesday, Thursday nights. We beat Notts County. We beat Chesterfield. You know, like we were about 8-10 points off the playoffs. We outpunched our weight. You know, last year we got really unfortunate. So I think for me, I would know if the resources sort of outweigh the achievements, and that's when I'd make that decision. That's the bottom line.
And also, I really want to ask about the internet and social media presence of both clubs, because obviously yours, Spencer, speaks for itself, not just obviously in the name of the club, but just how much of a following you do have. And we've spoken before, haven't we, about how your following is almost spread across the country and the world as well. But also Dorking, massively making a name for themselves on social media. You often see clips, they're usually humorous ones as well. Was that all part of the strategy with Dorking, Marc, or has it kind of come as a happy coincidence?
Yeah, exactly that, really. I mean, obviously, I think what Spencer's done is remarkable, because anyone can do it per se, but you still have to have the story and you still have to make your idea and your mechanism better than everybody else. You know, Spencer was in there at the forefront of it. He made it better than everybody else, created his own story, his own journey, his own strategy. There's 1,000,001 people trying to push stuff out on social media, but like anything in life, there's average stuff out there, right? We were just fortunate. I mean, a guy turned up and said, my mate reckons you're a bit of a character in the changing room. Can I record you for a game? Literally, it started as a game. And I was like, I don't really care. And that was how it started. And then, I mean, I'm not on any social media, to be honest with you. And I'm probably a bit uncomfortable in general with like what goes out there in general, but I understand it helps the club's profile.
Do you vet any of it before it goes out?
Yeah,
you do.
I'd be banned. I'd be banned from everything, really. The government would come round, probably. Yeah.
But do you seriously, you don't actually engage with it, you just kind of let the club do what they want with you know, they know they've got an absolute character and real charismatic person as the owner and the manager of the club, but in your eyes, you just let them get on with it. It's not something that's driven by you. So.
No, not at all, not one bit. I mean, the guys have been asking me for donkeys to do more. You know, we're now thinking about like a podcast and stuff like that for me and things. But the thing is, first and foremost, I'm just a football person, and I think that's what people understand from it. And we get people, it's unbelievable. I'm sure Spencer gets this as well, but like I go to home games, honestly, and we had it last week, and someone would go, hi, you know, we've come over from Australia for this game. And I'll go, yeah. Are you visiting someone and you've come? No. We've just come to see your game. And we get it every single game. America, Australia. Last Saturday, we had a whole 20 lads from Belfast, a load from Glasgow. And what they love about the consistent theme is, you know, I stopped watching football. I weren't interested, but we just like the story. And we like the fact we can get that close to the action and things. So I really do see the benefit for the club and what it does.
Given that appeal, and as Mark says, I'm sure you've had very similar situations with that, given the global appeal of hashtag as well. How important, though, do you think an online presence and social media is for a lower league club now in order to drive that engagement?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I get asked that a lot, and people say sort of like, how do we do another hashtag or whatever? Like, I think timing is such a big part of it. Yeah. Like we were one of the first to sort of try this, and I think our name, as much as we talked about last time, is divisive. It's also achieved a lot for us because it's made us, you know, noteworthy, if you like. I think you've got to be doing something different. I think what happens often is you get sort of a generic non-league club, and they'll see what Dorking are doing, they'll see what hashtag are doing, we need to do that, and they just think they'll get someone with a camera and film it, and it all just falls into place. Exactly. You have to have something that makes you stand out. So in Dorking's case, you not only got an incredible sort of underdog story, you've got a very, you know, charismatic manager and owner. And we have to, as a fan watching that content, we have to protect that. Because like in football, it's just coming out the game. Like, you just haven't got the personalities. If you're just a manager, a jobbing manager, needs to get the next gig, you can't stand out from the crowd. You haven't got any Brian Cloughs anymore, have we? Like these sort of characters. Mark's probably one of the last bastions of that. What's great about it is no one can sack him either. People joke about that, but like, imagine having someone else like what he's done for the club in charge. No one's ever going to care as much as he does. And I feel the same. I'm not in the manager role, but I sort of feel the same about myself. And even our manager, he's been our only manager. You know, we got him on board very early on. So like the affection that we have for him and what we're doing is way beyond the classic like carousel of managers moving constantly. And I think we've got to protect that in the game. But the social media side, it's very hard to just copy and paste. You've got to, I would say to someone, like, if you're trying to do a hashtag or a Dorking, like, don't look at us and rinse and repeat. You've got to think, right, what they did was different, it stood out. What's my version of that? And it's probably nothing like what we do. It might not even be on social media. It might be a platform I haven't even heard of yet, that they're cutting edge on, and that's what will make them stand out. I mean, we played Real Bedford women's team in the National League Cup on the weekend, so they're doing something different because they're this whole, like, Bitcoin inspired team. You should get Peter McCormack on here for sure. He's got one of the biggest Bitcoin podcasts, and he's just raised millions of pounds for what is currently a fourth tier women's team and a fourth tier men's team, I think. Step 4. To make this sort of Bitcoin inspired team. Something completely different to what we do. I don't understand that world, but I get why they've got a niche and why all the people in the world that are into this Bitcoin stuff are going to support that team now. So that's a movement, and that's the sort of thinking you've got to do.
I'm going to ask you both the same question. I'll start with you, Spencer. Where do you think that hashtag, both the men's and the women's team, will be in 5 years?
Well, it's a really good question, and there's two phases to it. So, like, in terms of what I can achieve as someone who's still the majority owner of the club, you know, we need to get a ground. Me and Mark were talking about it earlier. Like, regardless of any promotions or anything, the ground is the most important thing. It allows us to add the sort of traditional football revenue model into the club, which we don't get as a ground share. So if you said to me in 5 years we'll have a ground and we're at the same levels we're at, I'd be buzzing with that. I think that's really good. I'm really happy with the levels we're at. I think we can sustain there. You know, like Mark said, no clubs make money, but we actually make sense financially. So I don't want us to ever not make sense. I know that you can fly too close to the sun, can't you? You can say, oh, technically we might be able to get to that league, but what shape are we in? We need to grow attendances because we have this amazing online support, but we don't have it in the home games. We talked about it last time. We have this highest average away attendance in the league, but one of the lowest home attendances. It's a very strange model. We've got to improve that bit. Phase 2 would be if someone else comes in and a group of people understand what we are as a club and understand our potential and invest in that, and we build out closer to what Dorking are doing, you know, get into sort of full-time, trying to get that a few levels higher, but not for the sake of getting there, for the sake of making sense there, building out the model. And we talked about it last time, could we then look at doing something similar in other countries? That would be amazing, but it's not something we'll achieve with me in charge only, because I haven't got the pockets deep enough.
Might they go to other countries, though, in the future? Is that something you would think about in the future?
I think that is, you know, if you want to build a pie in the sky, best case sort of future for the company, if you like, of #United, it is having a load of hashtags in different countries with different versions of me in different countries. We understand the social media side. We almost create a Bible of how to do things, and we have that in a multi-club network model, and all the sort of shared resources you get from that apply, but you also get this content thread. And I think we could be one of the first multi-club networks that people support. Like, no one supports City Group, do they? They're trying to get them to do that, but they don't. They support Man City, or they support Melbourne, or they support New York City. But hashtag is like a philosophy of people that they might even have other clubs they support, but they would get behind our journey, and that part of that journey and that content narrative could be the expansion of the club. So that's something I'd love to do, but yeah, it's a very expensive game. So we'll see if someone else out there believes in that idea.
Mark, we know there's going to be a pre-season tour of Australia at some point, of course, with all your huge fan base out there that come to the games and stuff. But what about Dorking? Where do you think they'll be in 5 years?
Well, in the Football League, that's the plan. I don't see that being a huge challenge, really. I think we've had bigger challenges, to be quite frank. I think to build a club from scratch, bottom up, and dig 300-metre trenches for water pipes, literally, and build clubhouses, and God knows, you know, now to get a bunch of full-time footballers to finish in the top of a league is easy by comparison. But it's all off the field as you get to this level. The stadium, the infrastructure, the support of the local authority is really key. Everybody needs that. As we've gone higher, I never realised, you always assume that the likes of Oldham Athletic would just have their own ground, or York City, all these big clubs, but they're all in an authority ground and relying upon the local authority to give them a peppercorn rent. It's incredible. And so, yeah, we need the continued support of our local authority, but we're aiming for the Football League. We are winging it in part, always, but also leveraging the amount of support. We started a fan ownership scheme.
Yeah.
So we've now, and that was important to me because I know we'll come on to it, but protecting the club in the future. So we've seen so many clubs in England, Southend recently, where they've got owners that are, you know, prepared to see the club go to pot. We've seen it with Macclesfield and, you know, Bury. So we started a fan ownership scheme. We've now got best part of 900 invested people in that scheme that we can tap into, not just for support on a match day, but whether it's labour, whether it's further investment, whatever that looks like. And I feel like that's something we've really strategically done because we know, to Spencer's point, I can't keep doing it. We've got Jonathan, our new chief exec. We've got a board, but we need additional people to go forward if we're to sustain it.
Well, of course, good luck to both of you with all of it. I hope there'll be a League Two hashtag against Dorking.
FA Cup could happen.
FA Cup, there we go.
Yeah, FA Cup.
Exactly, yeah.
I'd love that.
No replays though. What a shame.
Well, no, we probably would be because
Third round qualifying, yeah.
Now, gents, I also want to get your thoughts on the independent regulator. We've already brought it up but last week there was a big development which could have drastic consequences for the two wealthiest clubs in England. There's a proposal to ban state-controlled clubs from English football. It's been submitted in an amendment to the Football Governance Bill. The move, which would have to be agreed by Parliament, would mean that Manchester City and Newcastle United would be forced to change their ownership in order to be granted a licence by the regulator. I can already see you taking on board this news, Mark. What do you make of that?
No, I mean, it's absolutely the right thing. I mean, ultimately, it's absurd. If growing up someone has said, well, a country is going to own a football club, it's like, it's too much power involved. I mean, realistically, Man City could lose this appeal, whatever, and realistically, they could just say, right, we're done with that, then we're going to wait and join a World League and just take them out of British football. They could literally, it's dangerous by association with all that power and money involved. And I think that's the big concern that even the Premier League have identified. And the Premier League are on this kind of like cusp of like greed, aren't they? Like they and it's a little bit like you see them with 1 foot in, 1 foot out. On the one hand, they want this monopoly. On the other hand, and then they look at this kind of like Newcastle. They kind of let them, you know, be a state but not a state, and go, oh, that's why they're doing it. But they are a state, really. And then they're starting to realise, oh, damn, do you know what? This comes with a problem. This Man City issue is a massive issue for them. Massive issue. So they've got, if you think about from there, but they've got a whole country supporting a club that are going to fight tooth and nail over a point deduction. But equally, the Premier League don't want to lose them either. And you sort of look at it and think, I'm not quite sure, even if they know what they want to get out of this. But,
exactly. But when you say they're on the cusp, and you say their foot is in either camp, what percentage is each foot in, if you see what I mean? Which side are they in?
Honestly, I'm not quite sure they know, because on the one hand, they've got to uphold British football tradition and what the FA wants. On the other hand, they've got this monopoly on world football. And honestly, I think the best way I'd describe it is I think they're all over the shop, right? And I think that's why the regulator's getting involved in this particular one. I've not got an issue with how much money, actually, people spend on clubs. That's the state-owned thing. The money is not the issue, because in my book, if all of them have loads of money, there's still someone with less money than the bloke at the top. It just means the players get richer, right? So that's not my issue. The issue just is the power behind it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
They can't enforce their own rules at this point. That's just the problem, right? So
yeah.
They're supposed to be in charge. And I know that the Premier League teams technically vote on things, and the sort of, if you're in there, you're part of it. The National League works similarly. But you know, they basically let the fox in the hen house, didn't they, when they allowed City to be bought by a state. And they didn't know at the time, and maybe you could argue it's easy to look back and you know, connect the dots. But the minute they allowed that, they then created a huge issue with the Premier League, which... But if you look at what happened with Chelsea in the Russia conflict, and they forced Roman Abramovich to sell, that there is now, previous of this, of them saying, look, that was from a governmental level, wasn't it? Which is what the independent, you know, adjudicator, if you like, needs to be looking at this. We need to take all tribalism out of it, which is incredibly hard in football, because we're so good at making everyone care so much about our teams. But, you know, I'm able to do this as a West Ham fan who isn't at that top end of the Premier League table and isn't state-owned or anything like that. I think, look at it a bit more objectively and say, like, what is good for football, what is bad for football. And it might feel incredibly harsh to the teams that have currently got these owners and if they're going to be forced out. But ultimately, there's a rule set in place. And when they try and enforce it, these guys just lawyer up and say, we're going to outspend you. There is no way you can ever outspend, you know, that part of the world. Many countries would be able to do it. So you just can't let them in, unfortunately. It's not about, oh, we think we're better than this country or that country. It should be across the board. It's not political. It's just, if you try to run that league, you can't run it if you've got these guys with, you know, inexhaustible income that can just fight you on everything you say. Have to have rules, and it has to be, you know, fair for everyone. So I don't know, it's going to be a bit ugly making it all work, but they've got an ugly situation now with this City situation that is, you know, you've done Forest, you've done Everton with points deductions. You have to do something, because we all know they've done at least what those two teams have done. Everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, independent regulator, good thing?
Really good thing if the independent regulators understand football. So you're only as good as the independence that's put in place, right? So the main reason...
What would that entail, understanding football, in your eyes?
I think it's either previous people have sat on the FA, it's non-FA people. So the reason for this is that the FA, people feel like it needs regulation because it can be a closed shop and there is no one to answer to. But equally, the independent regulator is, and I know for a fact through the DCMS that there are people involved that don't know football. That becomes a different problem. It's got to be made up of previous football governance people. Maybe there's some really good people that are sat in the FA, previously David Bernstein and people, plus alongside current people in the game. It's just got to have this real niche of a body, including parliamentary people that have the bigger picture as well, to then make the right decision. Because otherwise you jump out of the frying pan into the fire. And then you'll get decisions made that you think, well, that's a bad decision for the game. So we've got to be careful with it. That's
what I'd say. It is? It's funny because I know this is something you feel strongly about. It's a bit of a mirror of the referee situation. You need refs that understand football, and you get too many of them that don't. And that comes back to a little bit of why and how they're incentivised. And we don't have enough ex-footballers becoming refs.
I want to ask you about one more thing as well, guys. Another story concerning the FA is the 3 p.m. blackout and whether that could be gone in the next TV deal. talkSPORT's very own Jeff Stelling has had his say on others wanting to get rid of the blackout.
The headline should read, Greedy Premier League, it's all about us. You lot, you can go and do one, we don't care about you. There's no point in comparing it with European leagues for a start, because football in England, the pyramid is totally different. In this country, people care about teams in the Championship, in League One, in League Two, in the National League. It seems the Premier League don't care at all.
Gentlemen, would it be non-league clubs that would be affected the most by the 3 p.m. blackout going, do you think?
Listen, I think I've got a bit of an unpopular opinion on this, especially as someone that runs a non-league club, but I think it should go. I think it has to go. And this is not about me as running someone that runs a club. This is me as a football fan. It is so outrageous that when you go to America, you can watch every single Premier League game. I can watch every West Ham game on TV, and we can't watch it in our own country. It makes absolutely no sense from a purely media rights, football fan experience perspective that we don't allow it. And the argument that it's protecting non-league clubs is absolute nonsense, by the way. It might be, but that's not why it's done. I had someone very senior at the Premier League explain to me, right, it really is done. And it's done to make everyone support the big Premier League teams. So when Man United always play at midday or 4 p.m. or whatever on Sunday, I watch it. I don't support Man United. Back in the day, you didn't watch Man United games, you weren't a Man United fan. But now we all take interest in those big Super Six matches, and we all become sort of unofficial fans of those clubs because we watch them. If you let every game be on TV, I'm going to watch the West Ham game. I'm not going to watch the other games probably, and therefore those clubs don't continue to proliferate their strength at the top. It will hurt non-league teams. And my maybe unpopular view is if someone is only going to watch you on a Saturday because what they want to watch isn't on TV, they're not really a fan of your club, and maybe your club doesn't make as much sense as you think it should. I'm all about clubs making sense. You've got a club that makes sense over here, you've got a club that makes sense. If your club doesn't make sense, it's your job to make it make sense.
Mark, do you agree with that?
Wholly, especially that last part there about it's your own gig, really. I think, from my perspective, that it's a different marketplace. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Premier League's a TV sport now. It's a different marketplace. Arguably, I think it could diminish support because at the moment, everyone looks forward to the fact they've got this. If you're a football fan, a sports fan, you can sit in the bar and watch different games at different times. We was in New York the other week. It's like American football all down on a Monday, on a Sunday. But listen, in terms of the larger context, it's this like planning creep, isn't it? It's just this constant change of the rules to assist revenues. But on this particular one, I don't think it has a big iota on the game. Actually, could be quite good for the non-league game. And I don't think until it happens, you'll realise really either way necessarily the impact. I think I have a low impact. What I would say is, can they share some of the money? Can the money come down the pyramid even more? They do push money through the pyramid, including the Football Foundation. They should be applauded for that, but it's chicken feed compared to what they're getting.
There's two other big factors here, just quickly. One is obviously the Premier League have announced they're potentially going to do their Premflix type platform, so they're thinking about the next deal and they can put those 3 PMs on their platform and make the money. And the second thing is that I've forgotten the second thing. There was a second thing I was going to say, but the teams lower down the pyramid will be affected. But this is the second thing. What people maybe don't understand is that 3 PM blackout rule applies to our level. You know that? So we can't stream a 3 PM #United game, #United against Wingate and Finchley. we can't stream it.
Which will hurt you as a club.
Because what they're telling us, we can't stream it because they think if we stream it, then people might not go. Like, how ridiculous is that? At least if you're going to have the blackout rule, have it at a certain level and let lower teams find a way of making revenue.
It's a draconian FA rule, been there donkey's years. It doesn't make sense for teams at our level. I'll say one thing, what it could do is remind people that they can do without Premier League. Because a lot of the, what I hear all the time from our people are that, I started watching Dorking because Palace were away from home and now I just get a season ticket and watch you because I prefer it. And I think when we start getting these clashes at 3:00, and people then just think, well, I'm just not accustomed to watching football 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon, and I'm going to go down and watch my local side. I actually think it could convert traffic. I genuinely do, because I see that all the time in real life.
This weekend we saw hundreds of fans protest outside of Old Trafford before Manchester United took on Everton. That was due to a price hike in tickets for Manchester United fans. They're now expected to pay 66 quid for a seat in the Theatre of Dreams, and that price remains the same for concessions. The club's main point of defence is that they claim 97% of tickets for the remainder of the season have already been sold and so won't affect the majority of supporters. In total, 17 sides in the Premier League increased the price of their most affordable adult season ticket. That includes, by the way, guys, Arsenal's cheapest ticket being over £1,000 as well. Mark, on this, do you think as well, you've just talked there about the 3 p.m. blackout potentially causing a drive towards non-league football. Do you feel that price hikes like this will also, in some ways, benefit your clubs too?
Yeah, 100%. It's all I hear all the time. It's the number one thing I hear is about how they're dissatisfied with Premier League football, prices. You know, you could never be a single parent or a low-income family. Listen, football belongs to the fans. You asked the question, the fans absolutely should protest. Fair play to those Chelsea fans when they talked about the Super League and they all took outside Stamford Bridge and kicked off. Do you know what? Had a massive impact. Football is a working class game and that should never be forgotten. A lot of these owners, they don't understand, they don't get it. Theatre of Leaks is Old Trafford. The place is a dump. There's people posting pictures the other day with their feet in puddles.
Yeah, and a dead rat under the seat.
And a dead rat, yeah? Right? They, for all the money and, you think the sense these owners have, some of them have no idea about the game. The game is for the fans, the working class. Unfortunately, the Premier League, and due to things like the TV deals and where they want to take it, it is a spectator sport, it's a TV sport. And, if I went to Spurs the other day and took my boy to a tour, and it's just like, even I went to Fulham on a tour once. I love the little stadium tours, my little boy, and it's just like a tourist spot. And that's what the Premier League has become a bit, and they look at it that way. But I really hope the fans, they should protest. They should literally find out what car the owner come in, take his wheels off, literally let him know, no way. Because they'll soon change their mind, because they don't need that money. They don't need, that's just greed.
They need their wheels, though.
Yeah, they need their wheels more than that. But they should definitely complain. It's ridiculous. They don't need that money.
The German Bundesliga do this really well. Not only they've got their 51% thing, they've got their caps on ticket prices. Brentford, I think, just came out and they've got this new rule about away fans and how much they're going to charge youngsters and stuff, keeping it low, which is really important. We need more initiatives like that. This is where the independent regulator could be useful in bringing these rules in. The irony of us them saying that, we can't get rid of the 3 p.m. blackout rule because people won't go to games. People can't go to games anyway. It's too expensive. I fell in love with West Ham. My dad used to take me and my 3 brothers to West Ham when I was a kid, That'd be about 400 quid. Yeah. That's ridiculous.
For a burger, exactly that.
That's just to get in the ground. Couldn't do it. I've got 2 little boys and they get a bit older, I won't pay that to go to a game. No, it's not a good exchange of value, especially not if you're watching West Ham. But and then non-league, not only is it cheaper, stuff like what we're doing with content as well means you can actually be a fan of our clubs for nothing. It isn't possible to do that anywhere else. Even if the blackout rule comes out and Premflix comes out and all this stuff, how much money it costs to be a fan on TV now with your Skies and your Netflix and your BT Sport and all these different things, right? Super expensive to be a fan on TV of the top game. You can watch Dorking, you can watch hashtag just put up with a YouTube ad or whatever it is, and it costs you nothing to do that. That's pretty special.
Yeah, it is. And what about ticket prices for your own games as owners as well? We've just said there about, obviously the bigger clubs hiking up their prices. As you've moved up the leagues, what's your attitude been towards ticket prices? How much are you charging?
We've always been the lower end of whatever you can charge. I mean, and on top of that, doing initiatives constantly for kids and families. Like we take pride in kids being in the shirts locally, and being affordable for single dads, single mums, or low-income families, and giving them a place on a Saturday to go and watch football. So yeah, we've always been at the forefront of that. And I always find it quite puzzling, because I do think it's greed when it comes to. I know clubs at our level that are just £5 more than everybody else. You don't need to charge that. There's a Farnham who do a good job, like Spencer
Harry Hugo
does with Harry, and they're doing a great job of getting the community in, food floats and different ales on, and people are going down and going, what a great Saturday. And I truly believe that everything has a saturation point. And see, that Premier League, it's not beyond that. Nothing in life is beyond that. And I think they've got to be careful with everything they're trying to do and want, and the ownerships and what they do. Everything has a saturation point. Everything can go backwards or blow up or become boring. I really believe that. And I think, to a degree, that's kind of the route it'll go.
How close are we, do you think, to that saturation point right now?
I think we're seeing a lot of people come over to non-league, for example, and they want in that connection with players that I used to get when I go to West Ham. I used to actually meet the players and get the signatures just by standing at the bottom of the ground. Everyone's so untouchable now. So non-league's really good for that. And I think it all comes from the top. Like what Mark's talking about there with Harry Hugo, for example, is you've got an owner there who is basically just trying to grow a football club. He's made his money elsewhere, and he's now going, right, I want to make this club as cool as it can be. The guys at the top aren't sitting in the room going, how can we make this club as cool as it can be? They're literally just looking at P&Ls and they're saying, how can we make more money? And that's starting to come through. Like, non-league is an amazing version of that. You go to certain clubs, we're talking like very sort of low profile, but the staff are a certain way. They're very unwelcome in the boardroom, and it comes from the top because certain owners do not care about being liked, do not care about being a nice match experience for their fans even, let alone opposition teams. And you can just pick up on it. That is so true at the top as well, the top of the game. If you're going to Jim Ratcliffe, you're supposed to be going in there and sorting Man United out. He will be fuming, surely. There's dead rats in the stadium. You've got to sort that out before you build
yeah.
If you were in a room with some of those owners, Jim Ratcliffe, for example, what would you say to them about the way that they treat fans?
I think it's just about them. Somehow you've got to help them understand the game and put them in the pub before the game, or make them for 2 weeks go and,
Do you think someone like him just doesn't get it, is out of touch?
Well, I mean, Jim Ratcliffe possibly does. He's British, etc. But he's a minority shareholder ultimately. But the people like making those decisions primarily have no idea about the game. But football fans will always run football, and that's why I will speak out rarely on social media if I think something's wrong, and then get all the fans behind it. Football fans will always dictate football, and they always should, and that's important.
That Chelsea thing was great, and we don't do it enough. It was a great reminder of they hold the power, and I wish they would get more, more organised and do it for everything. Don't just stop at Super League. Do it for ticket prices next week. Do it, and we've seen it. We're talking about the Everton thing, but we can control it, and that's not even just a football thing. It's the stuff we put up with from the government, all these things. We are in control. We've just got so comfortable that when back in the day, heads would have rolled and been on spikes. Nowadays, it's like, at least I can watch TV and have a nice, little dinner. But you need to remember, we're in control. It's our game.
Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Mark, on your debut as well. Have you found it? All good?
Easy. Yeah, fine.
Great stuff. No, it's been great to have you along, and good luck for the rest of the season. Hopefully we'll have you back before the end of them as well. That's it from us this week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your company, and thanks again to our panellists, Spencer, Owen and Marc White. See you next time.